The mere presence of conflict reveals less about the quality of a relationship than does the way in which the conflict is handled. It's unfair to expect things of someone when they don't know what rules they're playing by. What's been going on in my life since we last saw each other? Well, some people, aka a man's, is now no longer in my life. Oh, we're ruining the entire date. Drop me back off at home. Let's just get into it. Alrighty, cookies. Have you guys missed me? Because I've missed me. Just talking to myself in the camera. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but actually, on the real, I missed you guys so much. I feel like this entire month break has been honestly like the most rejuvenating and like much needed time to just like get away. I feel like nice and refreshed. And so what's been going on in my life since we last saw each other? Well, I'm still living in the same place that I am living. I'm still friends with all the friends that I've had, but some people, aka a man's, is now no longer in my life. And so this kind of just brings up today's topic. Let's just get into it. We're obviously in a new setting. If you guys do not watch the podcast and just listen, we are in my car. Now, why my car, might you ask? My car is like literally my safe space. If you guys like know me, there was like a period of 2 years where I just had to like essentially like live in my car for a couple hours a day because work was really tiring. So I would literally take naps in the back, like during lunch or after work. I didn't want to like drive all the way back home if I needed to hang out in like K-Town or in LA later that day. And so I just ended up hanging out in my car a lot. So this is honestly my safe space. Even like, you know, post breakup, if I ever need to like process anything, I always end up coming in here. I always have a box of tissues in here because like I do be crying. Honestly, the amount of times that I have been driving in Los Angeles, mind you, like this front windshield, so clear, so crystal clear, no tint, it's just glass and me against my white seats. And so literally you can see everything that's going on in my car, and the amount of times I've just been bawling and I drive by somebody and we make eye contact is like too many. Like you would think that like crying in your car, being emotional in your car is like a safe space. Sometimes it isn't. I honestly really want to get the front windshield tinted because like why can people see everything? Like why is it like my iPhone 14 camera where you can see every pore? I don't want you to see every emotion I'm going through. Like this is my private space. Oh, can you hear what I'm listening to? That's kind of vulnerable. But anyways, we are recording in my car. It's honestly like so nice, like a cozy little studio. And so yeah, I just wanted to get into a little bit of a story time and just like dive into the science of conflict, because as you guys know, conflict comes up. I'm sure you guys know and have witnessed arguments, fights in public. I love like watching a little argument when I'm like out and it's like strangers and I'm like, what could they be fighting about? But yeah, I think just like in our 20s, there's always like some conflict, whether that be like if it's like really, you know, intense, like confrontational, like those vibes, or if it's like, oh, like let's have a calm discussion. Like I feel like I've gone through everything on the spectrum. And so yeah, you know, just to kind of like start things off, in my research I found that, you know, oftentimes it's like very difficult for people to like grasp healthy conflict. But I think one of the main quotes that I found that like really stood out to me is that the mere presence of conflict reveals less about the quality of a relationship than does the way in which the conflict is handled. And I think that perfectly just like states how just because there is conflict in a relationship does not mean that it's bad. Honestly, if anything, I think it's pointing to the opposite, which is that you care about this person, you care about preserving the relationship and making sure that things are healthy and good and things are being communicated about. Because, right, if I have conflict with a friend that like I literally don't care about, I'm not going to bring anything up, you know? That's when like I kind of do the quiet quitting and like leave the friendship, because maybe I feel like there's nothing else to be done or communicated about. But if I really care about a relationship, I think one of the biggest signs of love is to be understanding and to be understood. And so, yeah, I'm not going to waste my energy if I like don't see value in this friendship or relationship or any type of human connection, right? And so, yeah, I think, you know, just kind of diving into the science of things. You guys know that I'm like a little bit of a science geek. Like I loved bio in high school, and then even in high school, college, and post-grad, I think that psychology has always been like something that I've been just like interested in, like honestly passionate about. And so, you know, what I found is that we have parts of our brain, right? We have 2 amygdala. And I literally remember this from high school psychology. I think I remembered it like Amy G. Dalla, but Amy G. Dalla basically serves as a smoke detector for fear and preparing our bodies for like emergency response, right? When we hear fight or flight, like that's the amygdala like coming into action. That's what gets our adrenaline pumping, as well as our cortisol, which is like our stress hormone. And so it's all these things saying you're in danger, like let's figure out what to do to make sure that you're safe, right? Our body has all these safeguards to ensure that we're okay, and it's there to protect us. And so the amygdala is there to sense fear. And I think oftentimes, right, in conflict, it can be a little bit intense, a little bit like scary to be like, am I in a safe space right now? And so our amygdala kicks in, and you know what actually turns off is our prefrontal cortex. What is the prefrontal cortex? That's literally the part of our brain that informs our complex decision making, but all that goes away when the amygdala kicks in. And so it makes it so that we're unable to access multiple perspectives. And so reading this, I was literally shocked, right? I was literally like, oh, in like a high stress situation, in a high adrenaline and cortisol situation, my brain is unable to like think critically, essentially. And right, that makes so much sense. I feel like whenever there is conflict, I personally, like, I start seeing red, like my face gets hot, like I start to get like a little, like I literally feel myself getting heated, and then I'm unable to like control essentially what's coming out of my mouth. Like that's when I say things that I regret, or that's when maybe the other person says something that like they can never take back, right? We've all heard about those like big blowout fights where someone says something hurtful, and then the other person is like, I can never forget this. And I think we like, or at least me, I forget that there's like science behind this, like why our bodies do this, and it's simply to protect us. It's because it's sensing danger, and so it only knows to go into fight, flight, or I believe freeze is the third one, which I think I have a tendency to do. I've definitely noticed like when my stress gets, when I start to get stressed or something like is really bugging me, that I have a tendency to like freeze. Like I can't process anything like rationally coming into my brain, and so that's my body's just response. It's just like we're just gonna stop, not even like stop, drop, and roll, like we're just gonna stop. And so it's interesting because like I didn't know that all this was happening, right? And another thing that I found in my research is that our memory becomes untrustworthy. And so, you know, when like you get into something with like a partner, a significant other, even a friend, I think it's so easy to forget like all the good and all the history and all of that in the moment, right? And it's literally because our memory becomes untrustworthy, because all of our energy is going towards what is going to make us feel the safest in that moment. And oftentimes that's like I'm right and you're wrong, right? It never feels good to like have to like admit fault. And so I think like now knowing that even our memory can be impacted, like I think I'm going to be going into conflicts a little bit more clear-headed because I have this understanding and this knowledge that like my memory is untrustworthy. Maybe I'm like elevated and so I'm not able to access multiple perspectives. Like there's so much going on. And so, you know, today just to like get into the specifics of things, you know, something that has been not like coming up like frequently. I'm not out here like fighting with my friends, but you know, issues will come up here and there. Friendships will have to be adjusted here and there. Friendships will end here and there. But I think something that is constant is that I very much value the friendships that I have and the friendships that I've like worked so many years to build, that conflict does not mean that those friendships need to end. Sometimes they do signal that way, but oftentimes it's more so that like I want to get through this and work on this, and so our relationship can get better. And so, you know, I found in my personal experience that oftentimes the reason for friendship conflict is like when expectations are not being communicated nor met. And so what I mean by this is I think me as a planner, I appreciate when other people initiate hangouts, right? Like it can be tiring to be the person who is always reaching out to people and is always making the plans, and it seems like you're the only one in the friendship making an effort. And right, friendships and relationships in general are not like fair. They're not like 50-50. We're going even on everything. Let's split the bill even on everything. Let's strive in the middle. Like I think oftentimes there's a lot of give and take depending on people's capacity, depending on the just like complexities of like having a relationship with somebody outside of yourself. And so, right, like sometimes it's about these expectations not being communicated or these expectations like not being met. But I think like, right, to just like get a little bit more structured, I think that there are like two camps of communicating your expectations, right? There are the people that are aware. And so what I mean by this is like, if I have expectations and I know I have these expectations for another person, but I'm choosing not to share with this person, I think it's unfair to your friend because it's as if they are working off of invisible rules, right? How can this person know that they're disappointing you if the standards have never been communicated, right? Like, I think, yes, like friendships will ebb and flow. People reach out sometimes more than the other and it'll switch back and forth. But I think if there is like a feeling that maybe this person isn't meeting your expectations, like you have to go back and into yourself and ask yourself if you've even communicated this, right? It's unfair to expect things of someone when they don't know what rules they're playing by. And so, you know, I think in order to get in front of the potential disappointment of them not reaching out, it is better to communicate with that person and so they can know how to support you. I think a lot of this is about communicating your needs, right? Rather than coming up from a place of like, you're not doing this, or like you're being a bad friend. It's more so like, I feel blank because like these certain needs of mine aren't being met, right? And so that's category A, is like you are aware of your expectations but are not communicating it. So solution, let's communicate about that. But then there's also camp 2. If you are not aware, let's do a little bit of internal reflection. Like, let's figure out what you're feeling, because one of the things that my therapist would always drill into me is that what you resist persists, right? Whatever I'm pushing down, whatever negative emotions I'm pushing down, they'll eventually come up. And oftentimes they will manifest in like negative behavior, and it's like a little bit unknowingly. And so, right, I think I've experienced this where sometimes I don't want to like deal with all the negative emotions. Sometimes I just like want to feel happy and good all the time. And like, I think it makes it so that I almost like gaslight myself into not feeling these negative things, and it'll like manifest in like passive aggressiveness, or like maybe I don't hit you up as much because I feel hurt. And so I think some of the questions I've like started to ask myself are like, am I being avoidant of my negative emotions? And like, maybe am I like judging my feelings, right? Because if you're judging your feelings, then they don't have any like room to go anywhere, right? They just kind of get stuck inside of you, and like it's like a shame loophole. Feelings are just feedback from our bodies, right? On Jiggy's episode, she shared how humans are emotional creatures. There is a reason that we have feelings, and those feelings are communicating a need for ourselves. It's feedback, right? It's our body saying, "Oh, we're lacking in this. Let's go seek it out." And so to completely deny yourself of feeling those feelings, I think is like why are we shutting those things off? Like, have we been told in our childhood that like feelings are bad? Because right, I've definitely heard from different types of people, my parents, past partners, past people that I've dated, that like they're like, "Oh, you're emotional," and it can be in a negative way. And so I think that, right, it's so easy for us to like formulate and like judge ourselves for feeling certain things, but at the end of the day, like they're just feelings. It's not like you're choosing these things or even that they're like bad. And so I think like in doing all of this reflecting, it's like come into it with an open heart and open mind and like non-judgment. Otherwise, yeah, they don't have anywhere to go. And then, some other questions I ask myself, I think we're on like letter C. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know. What are the needs not being met, right? Ask yourself, are there things that you want from this person? And then D, do you feel lonely in your relationship? E, this one especially applies to me, is am I afraid of having conflict because I think it means that the friendship is going to end, right? Like I've had friendships end because of conflict before in the past. And it's not just like a one-time thing, like it's happened a couple times. And so it makes me scared of conflict. And so I'm less likely to bring things up. But I think I've started to realize that like if I want friendships to flourish, they might need some communication, some confrontation. Okay, so right, let's set the scene. I feel like my friend switched up on me ever since she got into a relationship, right? This is a complete hypothetical. Let's say that that's the situation and I'm feeling lonely, maybe a little bit abandoned. I think if I've been feeling this way for a little bit and I've like come to the conclusion that this is a friendship worth fighting for and I want to bring it up, going into this conversation, what is that going to look like, right? I think for me, one of the main things that I like to do is like to set an intention. And so, something that I found off of, I believe it was Oprah's website. I'll like link my sources down below, but to set your intention to release any spirit of defensiveness, right? It's easy to go into conversation being like, I'm ready to stand my ground. I'm ready to like hold down the fort and like be strong. But like sometimes it takes a little bit of like softening up. Like let's soften up the clay a little bit so we can mold it into the relationship that we want it to be, into the bowl that we want it to be. And so to release any spirit of defensiveness, and then to listen with an open mind, I think is a huge one, right? To really try to get curious and want to understand what's going on in this other person, in their life, if there are certain circumstances or beliefs that they have that are informing how they are responding in this relationship. And also, lastly, and this was one of the biggest takeaways from the article, was to assume best intent. I think oftentimes, like, right, when there's a little bit of conflict, it's like, oh my god, this person is trying to tear me down. Or if you guys are friends, maybe it's just like, maybe they're jealous, or like maybe the partner doesn't like me. But I think those are all assumptions that, right, we're making up in our head. And so maybe like let's pull ourselves out a little bit and be like, no, this isn't about winning, right? It's about saving the friendship and wanting it to grow and wanting to form and foster maybe an even stronger and healthier relationship. And so to always assume someone's best intent, I think is a great mindset to go into confrontation with. And so that's the first thing I do. Set my intentions. I even sometimes will set my intentions with this person, right? Just lay it out in front of them and be like, here are my intentions. And maybe that'll inform how they are in the conversation as well. And then secondly, the thing I like to do is communicate directly. Now, am I working on this? Absolutely. Am I a flawed human being who is sometimes a little avoidant with her feelings because I don't like conflict because it scares me? Yeah. But I've been learning that sugarcoating things doesn't do too much in the grand scheme of things. Now, I mean, obviously to each their own, every single situation is different, but I think in general, maybe I sugarcoat too much, and so it makes it so that the other person has a hard time understanding what's going on. Like, I'm not communicating directly and clearly. And so an example of this could be like, it makes me feel uncared for and lonely when it seems like I'm reaching out and just like sharing, right? Like, you know, sometimes like I feel like there's like an imbalance in our friendship, and like, you know, I love and care for you. Affirmation them. I love and care for you. So like, that's why I'm telling you this. You know, my intentions are not to criticize you or like hurt you in any way. It's just I'm feeling uncared for. And so I just want to like communicate about this. And then communicate your needs, right? What can they do to help you feel more cared for, less lonely? I would love if you initiate hangouts more. Clear, concise. And then what I've learned to do is to shut the fuck up after that. And so it gives them a chance to respond, right? If I go into a conversation like this, I don't want to be talking at you. I want it to be like a full conversation. And so that'll only happen if you give them room and a safe space to communicate with you. And so, yeah, after you communicate how you're feeling, what your needs are, shut the fuck up in the best way possible, right? And I have found that, you know, I'll like blow these conflicts and like out of proportion. Like, I'll be freaking out about it, right? I'll be freaking out about like having to communicate, of like, why are we having issues in the first place? But it's always blown out of proportion. Like, when I actually go into the conversation, they're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry you felt that way. Like, I will totally work on that. I didn't even know it was happening. Oftentimes, it's like they're completely unaware that that's even happening. And so do yourself a favor and like communicate those things so that people have a chance to like fix it with you, to get it right with you, right? And, you know, into maybe a different type of conflict is relationship conflict, right? We just covered friendship conflict. I think that's a big one that's been coming up in my 20s for the first time in my life. But also when it comes to relationship conflict, right? I think that especially at the beginning of the dating stage, right? When I'm just talking to somebody, or maybe we're just exclusive, not official yet, or like maybe we're just like 1 month into dating. I oftentimes find it really, really hard to bring things up that bug me, because it's like I don't want to like I want to like preserve the relationship that we have, right? I want to keep the honeymoon phase going. Maybe it's even like I don't want to ruin the day. Like, I literally, like, we have this entire date planned. When the fuck do I bring this up, right? Because oftentimes it's like, if something is bothering me, I think it had been bothering me for, let's say a week, right? I'm getting healthier. It's no longer 1 month. And so let's say a week, something's been bothering me. Something's been up. I'm like, do I bring it up at the beginning of the date? Because then, if it doesn't like bode well, oh, we're ruining the entire date. Oh, we got nice reservations? Draw me back off at home. But then if I like wait till the very end of the date to like bring up conflict or like an issue, then it's like, have you been holding on to this the entire date and like acting like you're okay? Because then it's like, oh my god, you need to go into Hollywood. Like, what's going on? Or now that I've learned that I'm not very good at hiding my emotions, then it's like, is it gonna show? Like, is he gonna know that something's bothering me? And like, I'm gonna pretend like it's okay because it's not the right time to bring things. Like, what is the answer? Now, I haven't really come up with a solution to that, but I think for me, I'm learning to communicate as I go in relationships, right? I think it's, like I said, it's so easy for me to be like, everything's fine. I love hanging out with you. Nothing you do bothers me. Your driving doesn't bother me at all. Oh, you're late to pick me up for dinner? Oh, I've just been sitting around for 30 minutes. Oh, we get to the restaurant and you didn't make reservations? Everything's fine. I'm a chill girlfriend. I'm so chill. No, I'm not chill. Literally, if you're not on time to pick me up from a date, I get it if like you're 10-15 minutes late. But if you're consistently like an hour or half an hour late, why are you wasting my time? Like, do you literally not respect me? Because that's what it feels like. When people are late, I feel disrespected. So I've noticed that that's something that I have learned to bring up, right? As soon as it happens, I'll just say something like, hey, can you, I feel, I don't know if hurt is the right answer or right, like, word to describe how I'm feeling, but maybe it's, I feel a little disappointed when, I'm ready at a certain time and you're not on time. Can you, like, next time try to be a little bit more mindful with what time you leave and get ready? Like, I've literally had that conversation before, and I realized that communicating it in the moment or as soon as it kind of happens makes it so that, like, things don't pile up on each other, right? Because if you're, a long-term relationship person like me, then hopefully you're going to be with this person for a long time. And you don't want that stack to get higher and higher, right? Years of buildup that could have been solved in like maybe a few different conversations. Ooh, like, I would hope that at our big age, we are communicating as we go. And so I really try to do that. And then, I try to like ask those questions of like, am I gaslighting myself into believing it's not a big deal just because like I don't want to seem dramatic or like not like the chill girlfriend, or like maybe it could be that like you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. Like, you don't know how to bring it up. And so I asked myself all those things. But now it's like looking deeper into the future to figure out if this is something that's going to come up, if something is going to impact your relationship later. And so might as well just get it out of the way, And in researching for this episode, I've added some things to my toolkit that I wish I had in the past, right? And so I hope that this would be something that you guys can add into, like, just acknowledge that, like, maybe and hopefully would make your conflicts go better and, like, do it better, So the first thing that I really like is the pause method. Now, the pause method, I heard about this on the 10% Happier podcast with Julie and John Gottman as the guests. So if you guys don't know, they are so well respected and renowned, the Gottmans, in the field of like relationships and relationship psychology. They have an institute, like the Gottman Institute, and so they do a bunch of research. And something that they had said on Dan Harris's podcast is that if you feel like, you're in the middle of a conflict and it's like starting to get heated, what you can do is to communicate to your partner, hey, like, I think I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed or like flooded with emotions. Can we like take and list out exactly how much time you want to take? 20 minutes to just pause and we'll revisit this. And what you do during these 20 to 30 minutes is to not think about the conflict. And I thought that was so interesting, right? It's to like go about like a normal routine. So I feel like I can imagine myself keeping myself busy, right? I'm fighting with my partner, and then I'm like, let's pause, and I'll go into the kitchen and I'll clean, or I'll start to meal prep. And so what this does is it takes your mind off of the conflict, and it allows your nervous system to deflood, right? Because like I said at the beginning of the show, when you're getting into it with your partner, your amygdala is doing an overhaul of all your complex thinking, of looking at multiple perspectives. And your memory is fucked up. Like, all those things, I don't know about you, but like literally I'm like, oh yeah, that's like literally what happens when I'm like into it and heated. And so to combat all those things, if I could just take 20 minutes and be like, let me breathe, let me like stress clean for a little bit, and we'll revisit, so that I'm able to go into this with a clear head. Yeah, I'm like all about that. And I used to think it was like rude, right? Maybe your partner will be like, okay, yeah, let's pause, and they'll go play video games. Honestly, I would be like, oh, so you're not even thinking about it? You're not even thinking about the fight that we're having? Like, do you not care? Like, I feel like my brain would have gone there. But now I'm learning, like, maybe it's okay to use something that like could de-stress you in order to come back into the conversation with a clear mind, right? With like a little bit less heat and redness, you know? Yeah, I think the pause method, something that I will definitely be incorporating, something that I would hope I would be able to like communicate with a partner and be like, look at this cool tool that is available, that is at our disposal. And then also another key point from their episode that I took away was, Julie calls it the dream within conflict. And so there are essentially 6 questions to ask your partner whenever you guys get into any sort of like disagreement, argument, etc. And one of the the 6 questions are there any values, ethics, or guidelines that are informing your perspective? Number 2 is there any like childhood background that I should know of that is informing your perspective? Number 3, like, why is this so important to you? And not in like a why is this so important to you, but in like, oh, why is this so important to you? Right? Get curious. Number 4, what are your feelings? Number 5, is there an ideal dream or an ideal situation? And then number 6, is there an underlying purpose or meaning? And so, right, these 6 questions, they actually recommend that you just print them out so that you just like have them on hand, so that you're able to, you know, work through them with a clear head. And then Dr. John Gottman, he actually like will print them out and take notes during arguments so that he can like clearly look at what's happening rather than like everything being jumbled in his head. But I think one of the main things I like from the Dream Within Conflict scenario tool is to ask if there's any like background or context, right? A lot of times when I, you know, am in a relationship with somebody, it's like about getting to know each other. And so I don't fully have all the details of their background that might be impacting how they view the situation. And like, I think more information is just helpful in like getting a fuller picture. And so I really liked that. And I also liked like, is there an underlying purpose or meaning? Like something that like you're not communicating to me that like you want me to know from our argument. So those are 2 things that like I will definitely be incorporating into my toolbox, and I hope that you guys are able to too, because once again, conflicts are inevitable, right? When 2 people are getting together and interacting with each other, and it doesn't speak to the quality of the relationship, more so to the fact that like both of you guys want to work on it. I think the solution here is the same as in friendship conflicts. You start with I feel about what, and you tell them what your needs are, how they can shine for you, how they can do better for you, how they can improve the situation, because nobody likes to just like hear complaints and then there being no solution. And so, you know, as the person communicating what's wrong, I would hope that you're able to, you know, help in the solution finding process. And then also, post fight, kind of doing a check-in of like, okay, how are we feeling about our discussion? Is like, what are the things that we can both take responsibility for? And then in the future, like, what can I do differently, right? How can we handle this so that we're better equipped and like maybe a little bit more efficient, And so, yeah, I think just like learning about, the different types of conflict and potential tools that you guys can use has been like so rewarding. And I hope that, you're able to like ask yourself these questions during conflict and that hopefully things go a little bit smoother. And also remember that like getting better at things takes time. And so maybe you and your partner, you and your friend just need to get better at fighting, right? Like, how do we fight well? Like, fights are going to happen. How do we do it better? And so, yeah, I really hope that this episode was helpful and useful. Just like transparently, I really want you guys to take something away from this episode. So if you guys took something away from the episode, please go ahead and comment it down below in the YouTube comments. And if you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts listening, go to YouTube and comment down below, what did you take away from this episode? And I will have all maybe like related episodes in the show notes below, as well as all my sources. And so yeah, your girl is in research mode. I like literally geeked out on this. Like, I just like wanted to understand, how do I do conflict better? And so I hope this episode was helpful. If you liked it, please go ahead and share with your friendies, maybe even with your partner. And I will catch you guys next week. Other than that, should we do like a little fun segment? What are things that I've been like obsessed with? Things I've been hyperfixating on. Oh, I went to the coolest show, guys. Liv was having an album release like party and performance in Sheep's Clothing in West Hollywood, and it was such a cool event. I like actually ended up going alone because one of my friends just couldn't make it, and it was so like nice because I got to the venue and there were a couple people outside, and I like kind of like overheard their conversation, like, damn, I can't believe like one of us couldn't get tickets, whatever. And I was like, oh, are you guys trying to buy tickets right now? And they're like, yeah, like it's sold out. And I was like, oh, I actually have an extra ticket, like, do you want it? And they were like, wait, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, like honestly, this ticket was gonna go to waste, like I didn't know what to do with it. And so they were like, yeah, we'll take it if that's okay, but are you sure? And I was like, yeah, like please take it. And so I ended up making a little friend. His name is Cody. Shouts out Cody. As well as his friend Chris. And so yeah, it was a super cool event. I really want to go to another In Sheep's Clothing event if I can. And then Liv is such an amazing performer. I have seen her perform before. She opened for Raven Lene. I think that was at the El Rey like more than a year ago. And her stage presence and her vocals and just, I think her confidence have just like shot up in the last year. And so it was really exciting to just see her growth as an artist and to see her confidence. And so yeah, that was super cool. And another thing I've been obsessed with is there is this thing called LA in Common, and their goal is to just create community in a city where it's hard to meet people sometimes. It was super cool. I met the founder Daniel. He hosts like work from home sessions at different cafes and just like event spaces throughout LA, restaurants, and he also hosts things like dating things, like speed dating, as well as dining experiences. And so if you guys want to come hang and check it out, I'm going to be at the work from home session at Open Market on, when is that? On March 6th. So this is coming out on March 5th. And so hopefully there are still tickets available, but I'll be there if you guys want to swing through and we could just do a little hang. And yeah, shout out Daniel. I love all the community building. I just like love connecting with people, and so that's super cool. And then last thing that I want to shout out is Little Tokyo Table Tennis. So I went to their Lunar New Year event a couple weeks ago while we were on break, and it was so funny because so I thought I saw my friend's a friend of a friend's ex. Okay, everyone keep up. Ready? I thought I saw a friend of a friend's ex. Let's call him Michael. So I thought I saw a friend of a friend's ex, Michael, right? I'm like literally like in this event, like everyone looks super fucking cool. Like literally everyone is dressed to the nines at LTTT always. Like I feel like it's just like a place of like culture and community and fashion and just like table tennis dorks. And so, right, I thought I saw Michael. And so I literally was walking by and I was like, hi, right? Like I'm a little nervous. Like there are lots of people and Michael didn't see me, right? So I was like, Michael. He didn't hear me either. And so, you know, like when you just like kind of say hi to people and like they don't hear you or respond, and I'm like, that's awkward. So I just walked away. I was just like, it's fine. I'll probably see him later and like be in closer proximity so I can say hi. And then what happened? I saw Michael once again and I was like, hi. And we made eye contact. He starts like waving like suspiciously and was like, I couldn't really hear him, right? I think he said, I know you. And I was like, what? Because we've literally gone on a trip together. Like, friend of a friend's ex. Like, we all went on a little group trip, a group hang. And then I swerve through the crowd, right? I'm weaving through the crowd. And I'm like, hi. Like, you're Michael? And then everything clicked. I was like, oh my God, are you Michael? Or are you Michael's twin, Jason? And he started laughing. He was like, I'm Jason. And I was like, what the heck, dude? What are the freaking odds that I run into your twin, right? So I had never met Jason before. Like I literally like I knew that he existed because like he had been brought up in conversation, but like I've never like even like met him, seen him. Like there was just like no other connection. So I had to like introduce myself and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, does this happen where you get like confused for your twin? And so it was just like such a funny interaction, right? Like, okay, confused you for your twin. I feel like that's a little acceptable, right? They're identical. And then I turn to his friend. I'm like saying hi. We'll call friend Derek. I'm not sure. I feel like he would be fine with me saying his name, but like just for privacy's sake, Derek. And so I turn to like his friend Derek and I'm like, oh hi, and like we're all talking, all chit-chatting. And then at one point Derek goes, you look really familiar. And I was like, do I look familiar? I was like, why would I look familiar? And my sister goes, oh, she has a podcast. And Derek is like, wait, are you Hannah? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, we follow each other on Instagram. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I'm Derek. And then I was like, oh my God, are you Derek Townsend? Are you Derek Townsend? And he was like, yeah, you guys, you know what's effing crazy? I had followed Derek for his photography like in August of 2023. Like we've been following each other for like 6 months at this point. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're meeting each other? We're meeting each other in real life right now? Like I had just followed him because I liked his work and like he had followed me back and I was like, why, who am I to get a follow from you? Like I'm a little confused. But yeah, like it was such a crazy random interaction. Like what a small freaking world that Derek and Jason just happened to be friends. I mistake Jason for his twin brother Michael, but then I was mutuals with Derek for however long. Like what the heck? Literally, life is so small. Life is so small. Life is big. The world is small though. And so yeah, it was just like so crazy because I think this was like the first time that like I have ever been in a situation like this where like I get to like meet a mutual in real life and like they're cool and like we're friends now. Like so crazy. So shout out to LTTT. It was such a cool Lunar New Year event, and yeah, I'm hoping to go back. I want to get my table tennis on, you know. But other than that, we will be back next week. Thank you so much for following. You guys can follow me on my personal stuff at HANAKATT. That's HANAKATTT. As well as on all the podcast channels. We're on everything. So share with your friends. And I will catch you guys next week. Annyeong! Oh my gosh, guys, my egg yo. Annyeong!